Dato and Lior Ackerman, and we're continuing to focus on the Israeli society, and now we're going to focus on the relatively younger generation, those who are paying a very dear price since October 7th. And this panel is called Not in Vain. The face of this country, not in vain, is a term that one of the panelists coined, and we'll soon talk about that. And I'm truly delighted to invite Emily Damari, who from Kfar, who returned from captivity. It's a great honor to see her here. Hello, Emily. Amit Bar. We said that the name of the panel is something he said. He's a combat soldier in the IDF, a second-year student, a junior here in Reichman. Hello, Roni Nachmias, one of the founders of the program Beit Arazim, Fighters for Israeli Hope, and Nimrod Carmel, the chair of the Reichman Student Union. And this panel will be moderated by Zarifi from Channel 12 News. Hi there, Adi. Hello. Hi, everyone. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're truly delighted to have this conversation with all of you sitting here with us in this auditorium. These past few years, since October 7th, have forced an entire generation to grow up very quickly, and perhaps they forced all of us, no matter from which generation, but definitely the people sitting here on the stage with me, to think about their role, their place in all of this. And the title of our panel is Not in Vain. But in order to make sure that Not in Vain is not merely a slogan, we need to understand what that means. And for that end, I'd like to refer the same question to all of you. For the beginning of this panel, the question is, what could lead to a situation that ultimately the sacrifice of your generation will be in vain? Where does the risk lie? And I'd like to put our finger on that first, and then we can carry on with our discussion. So first I'm going to ask you, Amit. Thank you. Well, Amos and I talked once, and I said to him that we, as wounded, we were wounded, and our entire rehabilitation, we're concentrating on returning to norm. 3 weeks after I left the rehabilitation center at Tel HaShomer Hospital, I went to study here in Reichman for my freshman year in diplomacy strategy and government studies, and I told them that we'll do it, we'll return to our routine, do whatever we can, as long as they guarantee, they promise to us, if they really look us in the eye and say that all of this wasn't in vain, everything we've sacrificed, for example, my leg, my friends who were killed, Shai Shamrik and Shauli Greenlick, for it not to be in vain, there's an external and internal aspect to that. The external one is to completely eradicate the terror organization Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all those who are harming us. And more domestically, it has to do with national resilience. I can tell you that what really hurts me and makes my injury in vain is the fact that people stop feeling like they belong to this country, and all of a sudden they're considering leaving this country. And let me remind everybody, on November 1st, I entered with Battalion 391, along with the Nachal Brigade. We entered Gaza in 2 files, in 2 columns, Tatra and Jabalia and some other villages. And we didn't protect empty houses, we protected people, because I understood what had happened on October 7th, and just like Viktor Frankl said, you cannot choose what happens, but you can choose your position about what's happening. And so we entered Gaza, and we set aside all of our differences, and I think that in the next few months people will try to depict it as if there are several sides here or whatever, but it's important that we all remember that we live in the same country, we belong to the same country, and we shouldn't stop feeling like we belong here. Thank you. So, Amit, what you just told us is that the title to this panel was born from a conversation between you and Amos, and now I'd like to refer this question to all the other panelists. Emily, Of course, if you could take about 1 minute, we'll have a short round and then move on to other questions. So what do you want to say? First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me here to speak and to express my opinions and what I think. Another thing I'd like to share is something that happened to me 4 days ago. I was flying to New York and I met this girl there, and she landed together with me. She was a 17-year-old teenager trying to find her way around, and I said, come with us, we'll help you. It was me, Gali and Ziv Berman, who were with me, and I asked her where she was from to reduce her panic. She asked me where I was from, and then I said Kfar Aza. And have you heard about it? I said, and she said no. And I'm saying only 3 years had passed since that terrible thing happened, and a 17-year-old teenager doesn't even know what Kfar Aza is. How do we make sure that it won't be in vain? Is that first of all, we'll remember what happened to us. We should remember how we functioned when that happened to us during those moments, and we should always know that it doesn't matter. Once we go to the diaspora and we'll say to somebody there that we're Zionists, the first thing they'll do is most probably, regretfully, some act of anti-Semitism, something unpleasant. The only thing we have in order to keep all of this is only our unity and our goodness if we remember our history and what people did for us. So it starts with these little things and then it passes on to some bigger things. Yes, I can truly relate to what you've said. It's so important to know what happened and to know all the facts. You can all probably identify with that. Ron, I also have to say that I find it very moving to be here, definitely in this panel, surrounded by these people. I'll connect it to Beit Arazim, the Cedar House. It's a relatively new program for people injured in the IDF, both emotionally and physically. I think that not in vain, if we all take responsibility over something in this country, some people maybe can do it in bigger places and others can do it only in their own region, in their own environment. In this way we'll know that it's not in vain. Our plan, its purpose is to help the IDF wounded to be integrated into civil service, security, and education. These are three pillars of Israeli society. We need good people in these fields, and the IDF, people wounded in the IDF are experts in rehabilitation. Not only are they experts, they are people of great values and are a symbol. Thank you, Nimrod. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you. Being a part of this big place, which is so much bigger than all of us, I think that it won't be in vain when we can look in the mirror, or if we can look at people like Amit and Emily, and perhaps others who are no longer with us. For example, my neighbor of blessed memory, and the friends of many of us sitting in this auditorium today, to look at them and say thank you. It is thanks to you that this country is a much better state than what it was, and this inconceivable price, and it is indeed inconceivable, perhaps somehow was worth it. I think somebody has to wake up here and, start taking the gear shift and understand that we have one country, and people need to understand that all the deals and corruptions and whatever, we don't have any other country, and then it wouldn't have been in vain. And also Stan is saying something from the perspective of a young adult with the two biggest crises of this period, when we as a country know to look at the security reality in the eye as is, and to establish a commission of inquiry that will investigate October 7th, but any October 7th as a code name for something that could happen in Israel, outside of Israel, in the north, in the south, in the east. Once we know how to address that, once we know how to tackle the unity crisis and the rifts we have that were born from the protest to date, and then maybe we will be worth that heavy price, and nothing will ever, be worth it. But So what comes up from some of the things you've said, you Nimrod and you Roni, is responsible and also accountability. And I'd like to ask you, Emily, this question. You also have a very unique perspective, one of the most unique one can find among the citizens of the State of Israel. And I'm wondering, what do you think is the responsibility of the State of Israel towards its citizens? On the one hand, how do you see it? And what is our responsibility as citizens, as each other's friends here in this place? How do you perceive these things? Look, I think that the responsibility of the state, it's first and foremost to guarantee security, to make sure that the mothers who go to sleep at night won't be afraid to get up from somebody knocking on their door, informing them that something happened to their child. And I think the responsibility is mainly ours, the civilians. Just like my dear friend here said, our unity is the strongest thing we have. And if we can't, hold ourselves back for 1 minute, and if somebody crossed the road and annoyed us a bit, or somebody who doesn't think like us, and things get out of context, and, this entire thing, once something happens, let's say Trump comes to Israel and says to Lapid that he's a good-looking guy and jokes around, and Eyal Golan sings with Omer Adam, in that second and a half when there's like a moment of unity, when Trump speaks with Yair Lapid or Eyal Golan sings with Omer Adam, there's this 1 second in these people that they forget everything, just like what happened immediately after October 7th. People immediately understand that there's no place for division here. It doesn't matter what I think and what you think. This is the time to be united, and this is the only way we can come strong out of it. Do you feel that perhaps as a nation, as a people, we have a tendency to destroy these moments, to come to the party and ruin it, to be party poopers? Because there are beautiful moments. Yes, of course. Unfortunately, it's a part of us. You can't constantly be at your very best to get up every morning and smile, because there are things that I encounter. I don't always have the patience. I don't always enjoy the fact that everybody knows me. Sometimes I miss Emily of the past, but I know that when that person comes up to me, I guess he fought over me, maybe prayed over me, maybe protested in the streets for me. So I, shove aside my impatience, say hello and thank you and smile and move on. And that's what we should all do. We'll soon get to your expectations on the national level, because we are during an elections period. And now I'd like to move on to you, Amit. We all know of your contribution to the security of the State of Israel. You also study policy strategy and governance here in this university. I'm interested, you read the way things are supposed to be in theory, textbooks. Most of us have been through this stage of how it's supposed to look like and how it is in practice. How do you see this gap?
I see this gap first and foremost that studies give me some routine. Finally, I don't have to just look at the medical stuff and my leg and everything else, and I can just listen. And all of a sudden, you come to the courses here and you put everything aside and you're just here to absorb, to learn. And so many things are so interesting. And I don't know how you can bridge the gap between reality and what I'm studying. I just come here to broaden my horizons, and deliberately I come to each course interested, not just to pass the exams. That's always encouraged. But maybe you'll even be the valedictorian and you'll finish with honors. If I were to tell you that you have one chance to speak to the decision makers in this country, what would you like them to know about the people of your generation, those who have fought with you shoulder to shoulder and are still doing that? I think the most important thing that I'd like them to know, it has to do with the wounded, the words saying, about people when people say on the news that someone has been injured, just know that they are wonderful people who have suddenly gotten a phone call. They got a phone call. There are 4 people who got a phone call from me. I was in bed in hospital. There were all these machines, and they had to deal with their young child or their brother who used to be so independent and strong, and suddenly for 10 months he's in hospital and he's in bed and he's not independent. You have to brush his teeth. He can't move a muscle. And just so that they understand, there are so many injured soldiers, and it's so important for you to find out, for people to know what it means for a soldier to be wounded. It's terribly important, absolutely. And here, Roni, is where you feature, where you and what you do makes it so important. And some of these organizations were there before the war, but some were actually conceived due to the great need. When you wake up and see, and you can work with these populations, what do you think the greatest need is? It's a great question. Let me say that there are so many NGOs that have been set up really after the war, and we like to say let there be as many as possible because it's important and we need it. As for the need that we see, ultimately Beit Arazim has a sort of maybe more occupational orientation, not all the way through, but mostly the people who come to us are people who want to go back to contribute, to be vivacious, to be as meaningful as they were on the battlefield. And it's not easy, because when you're wounded, you have so many mental and physical challenges. You have to cope with things that have to do with your identity. Where was I in the past? Who was I before? Who am I now? And at Beit Arazim, we're there to give the warriors, the combat soldiers, this ability to see their strengths, to see where their power lies. And that's what brings them to us. Because with many NGOs and organizations, they put rights on the table, or the injury, and we rarely talk about the injury. We talk about the injury as a gift, as a way to start out and do something. When something bad happens, then something good also emerges. And we mostly talk about strengths, and I think that is something that this population really needs. So important. I think that we all need it. Nimrod, you represent thousands of students. And for them too, it was not easy during this war. Some of them, many of them, contributed themselves, were enlisted. And when you listen to them, what is reflected by their concerns? What is the greatest worry of those people who study alongside you? The security, the social state of affairs, the economic situation, perhaps this trust crisis we are having with the state, maybe everything you've mentioned is so strong and so imminent, and this really is the social contract that's been breached. And I just want to say what I've been doing the last 2 years, and I don't really have a life the last 2 years, but I'm grateful for it. It's much bigger than me. I have just come from a day of saluting reservists, and what people are here describing here is just something that is immeasurable. People are talking about 200 days, just imagine just 20 days and going through something like Amit did, or worse, God forbid. People come back and they find it hard to go back to the reality that we as normal people live in. I think that the crisis of shouldering the burden is something that is tough, something that is so urgent. It feels like a slap across the face. That's the most imminent thing. And also the crisis, the unity crisis. You come back from a place that is very well formed. Everyone's together. You can see it's all united, and it depends. These days it's a bit hard. You're describing a complete disconnect. And we talked about that, by the importance of unity, but there's also a bit of a disconnection from the state. And I want to challenge you and ask you, I mean, it's always been this way, hasn't it? I mean, as a public, we're all more attentive to one another. And the people who are running this country, of course, are busy with many things, and they can't be completely connected to us. So what would you say to someone who says that? Because you're a young leader. Perhaps you someday will also become a politician, and you'll be forced to maybe be a bit detached from what the public feels. Well, I'll say it about myself. I am not, the essence. As a leader, I am not the essence. My essence is what I represent. And that's what I think other politicians and leaders should do. And the essence and their mandate, the reason they are who they are, is the public they represent. And to me, yes, as I've said before, decisions should not be made on the back of deals and all sorts of tricks, but what is the most right thing to do for the only country we have, and we just cannot lose it. And yes, that's exactly what our leaders should do, to think for their public and not to be disconnected. You don't accept it. That's right. Emily, we talked here about the challenges and what can be done and should be done so that it will not be in vain. And you, without wanting to have become a famous person, everyone knows you, but for good reason, I think, that you also know that you have managed to touch so many people in this country, and actually beyond this country, because of your story that was forced upon you, but also because of the way that you coped every step of the way. When you were there, now that you're here, and you have to also cope with all this attention, please share with me. I want to know your secret, the magic of Emily. I'm sorry that I'm talking about you to you, but tell us something we don't know. It's because I'm half Yemenite and half English. Perfect combination. No. First of all, it's not an obvious thing to me. This whole thing that Emily Damari has become, the fact that people stop me on the street and want to hug me, to shake my hand, to kiss me, everything. It's not obvious to me, and I don't know what happened there when I left and I decided to share with my family everything that's happened. And everything I told them was that I survived and I won. That's all I told them. How did I survive and win? Well, we go back to the same place, the unity. And why am I saying that? Because I always talk about Romi Gonen, who was with me in captivity from the 40th day. And thankfully, aside from October 7th itself, I was not alone in captivity for a single minute with Hagar Broda, who returned with her children in the first one, and Ziv Berman for a while, and lots more hostages. And my victory every single day there was knowing that I have someone there with me. The fact that it doesn't matter if it's Romi and I, and maybe in the outside world we would not have been our best of friends if we'd met. But something there, the fact that we had one another, the fact that we knew that no matter how bad it's going to be, we have each other. That's what won. Every morning I won together with Romi. And I knew that once we'll be back out there again, and the wonderful people of Israel, everything else will just be a bonus. I said, okay, I've gone through the worst, and from now on it's just, recovering, rehabilitating myself, but ultimately it's this matter of unity. It's no matter what I had the Romi, and that was enough for me. And it was just that. It's looking at the good things, and even though I'm in the worst place possible in my life, I will get up and I will sing a song of thankfulness, of gratitude, and I'll be there for as long as I need to be in order to go back to my family, in order to come back to you, in order to somehow inspire and bring hope to our nation that has been so traumatized. And it's all about that. And we're so happy to have you here with us, and we're so happy to have you the way you are. And you're talking about a shared faith and about gratefulness and gratitude. And that's what's making you stronger. And we all share the same faith. I think it's relevant for us all in the same way. Amit, you came back. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing. You came back from Europe, right? And you did this round of maybe public diplomacy. It's a bit of a, it's a bit trite already, but you met with American soldiers there. Yes, I went with NGO Miriam, Benjamin and Rosita, and they flew us to Poland and France. And they couldn't come here themselves. We met American cadets from West Point, and they have no connection to Judaism or Israel, and you have to explain everything from the start. And we were in D-Day in Normandy, and then we went to Poland, and you're there in Tikochin, and you explained to them that this is where Jews were murdered. And while you explain that to them and you talk to them about the Holocaust, at the same time you hear that the Iranians are launching missiles, ballistic missiles, that are going to destroy us. And at the same time, the same day I think, there was also the terror attack in the Sharon area, I don't remember where, and a soldier was killed. And you're standing there before them, explaining to them, and I even told them about Netzer Acharon, where a Holocaust survivor whose entire family was killed and then joins the IDF and gets killed, and now there's no one left. No one of his family is left, and he's the last of his family. And they ask me, one of them asked me, so what, you keep living in constant fear in Israel? And I told him that we have an army, and we protect our country, we defend it, and on November 1st we went into Gaza to fight it, to get hostages out and to defend our country. And the fear is that within the family there'll be a knock on the door, and you'll find out a relative you know has been injured or killed. That's the biggest fear. And I explained it to them. It's, maybe it's a bit corny to say public diplomacy, but I really think there's nothing more important at the point we are in this struggle. And when we look outwards, okay, fine, we'll be able to cope, but we also need to look inwards, right, Roni? About the people who are next to us and around us. So what do you think that we as a public should know about the people and their recovery when their injury is not always seen or visible? What can we do something that will be better for them as the people around them? From my experience with transparent injuries from the people I've met and worked with, I think that each and every one of us has something they can do. Everyone can think about how they can maybe be better, be kinder to the person they meet, someone who's come back from battlefield, and maybe we don't even know that they've been injured. And maybe if I now look at this audience and say, if I feel many of you are managers and you have employees, you're working in companies, and people are coming to interview, and they want to come work for your company. What if they say they have PTSD? It's so common now, and people are now putting it on the table. Maybe that's an advantage that comes out of this war. It's no longer being hidden. People are coming out and saying it. And as employers, I think many such people are so afraid and so worried about going to an interview and telling them that saying they have PTSD and not getting hired. And I think it actually has a lot of advantages when you employ these people who have contended with such challenges and difficulties, because as I've said before, they are rehabilitation and recovery experts. I think they have so many advantages to offer, and maybe that's one thing we can do. But again, it can be in any other area too, and of course, as you've said, also on the personal front, because at the end of the day we've all gone through something, we all have a story to tell. So again, as Emily has said before, to know how to treat this in a sensitive way and to give the person before you some credit that maybe they don't have much patience, maybe they're impatient because they've gone through something, maybe they have been hurt in some way, they've been scarred in some way. Right, not to jump to conclusions. We're about to near the last round, the last question, looking toward the future, but I'd like to ask you, Nimrod, do you think that this generation, your generation, even has the faith, the belief that we can do something better, that we can build something different, or have they already lost this faith? in being able to change anything. First of all, I want to respond to what Roni and Amit have said. This fact that, the terror attack that you talked about started in Kfar Yair and in Sal'it. Chaim Kalmiti was the one who was killed. Actually, for many years, I was in his home. It was second home to me. So look at this coincidence. I really do agree. And I think that certainly there's hope. There's so much criticism, but from this criticism, we also hear hope and a desire to change. And we slowly but surely see the younger generation going into this and marching forward. And even just looking here, the wonderful people sitting with me, and I see an example here of being a role model, being resilient, sacrificing, being responsible, and being a leader and publicly responsible. They're all role models here, and we have just one country. We're not going to give up on it. It's an amazing country, and it has great potential. Okay, I think people are agreeing with what you're saying. Now, a new government will soon be formed. It doesn't matter which side of the political map it will come from. It doesn't matter who it will consist of. I would like to ask you, and please feel free to demand, to say, what are your expectations of the next government? Emily? My expectation of the upcoming government is exactly what I said in the first question. It's to give the mothers the security not to get that knock on the door. Every night they're worried about going to bed. They should go to bed peacefully and calmly. A lot has to be invested in education so that we'll never forget what we've been through, what we've done, and we can develop from it and learn from it. And I just want to also make note of the fact that there's something very sensitive here that I'm fighting for, not to have the young generation neighborhood from which I was kidnapped, exactly for this reason. Not to have it destroyed, because I want to be telling my story years ahead, and it's my mission, it's my duty and commitment to tell what happened to me. And there is a great war story there about the people who fought, and families, so many of them who have lost their beloved. And we need to really put an emphasis on a commitment and on education as a country and as a government. Absolutely. What do you say, Amit? I also think this has to do with the first question of not in vain. So first of all, to eliminate all the terror organizations, Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian regime, that's from the outside. And inside, I feel that we need to give everyone the feeling that we all belong to the same country, that we should have more unity in the sense of a feeling that people are not being ignored, that everyone is being accepted, because I feel that every sector is losing something. Like in football, if one team is a winner, the other is a loser. But now we feel like every sector is a loser. No one's a winner. So we should have some kind of unity. So it's not a sum-zero game to you. This is fight that we keep feeling between the different groups within Israeli society, the tribes, so to speak, of Israeli society. So you see this whole thing working together. We're not all losing if someone else is winning. Right, that's how I see it. We should work together, just as we did, just as my friends and I on November 1st went into Gaza in 2 rows, or just like when I was in recovery in Tel HaShomer Hospital, so many people came and thanked me, and they didn't ask me where I come from, who I vote for, they didn't ask me questions. So many people just came up and said thank you, and the same was true for all the people injured then. It really moved me. You also didn't ask these questions. Who are you fighting for? You fought for your country, and that is what we all need to remember. Roni, what do you think? I can say from my own personal perspective 2 things that are really connected with what's been said. First of all, even before the next government is formed, during the election campaign, the upcoming election campaign that often brings out so many ugly things in our society. So I'm asking not only the government, but all the people who are part of the election campaign to really behave in a respectful manner, not to turn it into exactly in the name of unity, unity. That's what we need. And I want to say something else. For the upcoming government, I would demand of it and expect of it trust. I think that at the end of the day, I wish we will see a broad unity government, but any government that will be formed, as far as I'm concerned, should be responsible and take care of all the populations, not only its base and its own voters. That's what I would expect. Okay, and last but not least, we already see the clock is on red. It's okay. It's my responsibility. I'll take it on me. Okay, so I just want to repeat myself perhaps, but I would like to see a government and leadership that I can be proud of, that I know the backbone of it, the values it has, its conscience, and its heart is in the right place, where they see first and foremost the public before they see themselves and their own personal promotion. And that's what I, as an Israeli citizen, would like to see. And of course, I'd like to see solutions for the huge pain we all have on the security level, on the level of shouldering the burden, so that all the reservists and all the citizens and families around them who also experience this, and that for it to look at the future of the young people, the cost of living, etc. That's what I would want. Right, absolutely. Sometimes we look for the right to engage in these things, but really very smart and important things have been said here. This conversation has been a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking part in it, and let's be successful, hopefully. Good luck to us. What a wonderful generation. It's so amazing to see you. Emily, I wanted to hug you. It's so amazing to see you here. Amit, thank you very much. Thank you for everything that you have done for us all. And thank you to these young, amazing people. It's